Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. So today is going to be the first video in my how to not suck at web filtering. And the inspiration of this video came from actually having to deploy a seamless WSA implementation so that single sign-on worked, and we had WCCP redirecting HTTP and HTTPS traffic, and there was SSL decryption, and a bunch of moving pieces. And while there's some great guides out there, I didn't find anything that was quite complete. So I wanted to try and do a short two-part complete series on that, just so you can build this out in a lab, and then maybe have a pretty good idea of how you can move forward with an enterprise implementation. That said, a lot of the moving pieces that we have to work with are not on the Cisco side. The WSA configuration, the WCCP that you'll do on your router or firewall is pretty straightforward. It's getting stuff like trusted certificates installed on all of your client computers and issued out to your WSA, and some of the Active Directory integration. So all that means is that we have to work on a Windows server for this first video. I know that if you're like me, network guys hate working on servers, but you have to be able to articulate to your server team what it is you're trying to do. And if you want to build this out in a lab and see how it works, you'll have to do all this anyway. So in this first video, we're going to go through just the basic configuration of our domain controller, really just covering how to set up our enterprise root certificate authority, and make sure that our client computers are trusting that enterprise root certificate authority, and that we can request certificates from it. And then in the second video, we'll get WSA registered, or not registered, but add it to the domain, and import those subordinate CA certificates and web server certificates that we need to have in order for everything to be trusted. And we'll go from there. So enough rambling on. We'll take a look at the environment really quick. Super simple. We have an ASA, inside interface, and outside interface. The inside subnet is 192.168.87.0. Our domain controller is going to be .10. Windows 10 is going to be DHCP, and our Cisco WSA will be .11. Let's jump onto our domain controller. And not a lot of config done. It's set up as an Active Directory domain controller. DHCP and DNS are running on this guy also. And the Windows 10 computer is added to the domain. Domain is WSA lab. All right, so that's all set. Let's go to add roles and features to add our certificate authority role. Lots of next, finish here. We're going to check off the box next to Active Directory Certificate Services, add features, press next again, and next again. And on role services, obviously it's a certificate authority. We're also going to check the boxes for certificate enrollment web service. We'll add features there, and certificate authority web enrollment. Add features there. And that should be enough to get our basic certificate authority up. So we'll add these and let Windows do the install. I will actually pause the video while it's doing the install. We'll come back whenever it finishes. And we're back. Looks like certificate authority, our certificate services has finished installing. So let's do the post-install setup. We'll go up here to our notification area, click on that, and configure Active Directory Certificate Services on the destination server. Press next. It's going to be certificate authority. We're going to do web enrollment. I have to do the web service afterwards. So we'll just next through this. We're going to choose Enterprise CA. Standalone CA would be a bit more complicated design, where the standalone CA wouldn't be part of the Active Directory domain, and instead you'd have the Active Directory, the certificate authority that was part of the Active Directory domain would be a subordinate of your standalone. It gets a little more complicated than what we're trying to do. For this basic setup, we're going to just make this domain controller an enterprise root certificate authority. So leave it as the default, click next. It's a root CA, click next. We're going to create a new private key. Click next. You can make this more secure if you want to. This is a demo video, so I'm not going to tweak the hash algorithms too much or change key length or do all the stuff that you really should do in an actual implementation. Press next. We'll keep the common name, all this stuff set the same is fine. We'll press next. Validity, it's not going to be on for even 5 days, so leave it for 5 years is totally fine. Press next. Next again, and configure. And this usually goes pretty fast. Okay, cool. Then we'll go back. Press yes when it asks if you want to configure additional roles. We're going to check off our web service. Next. There's the CA name we're configuring it on, same box. Well, we'll do Windows Integrated Authentication. The defaults for this stuff are usually fine. I'm actually going to change this to built-in application pool identity. Let's see. We'll use the existing right now, but I'd actually like to create a separate certificate for web enrollment, or for the web server itself. And we'll click Configure. Configuration succeeded. If you haven't gathered by now, by the way, I am not a systems guy. I'm not a Microsoft guy. So I'm sure that if there are any Microsoft guys watching this video, they are cringing. And that is okay, because I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just going to try and get this working. That way we can get to the Cisco stuff that I like much more. So we'll go Server Certificates. Double click on that. And this is, I like to create a web server certificate for the box, just so that when you go to the web enrollment page, that everything lines up with the host name. It doesn't give you any errors. The common name, I think this box was, yeah, WSA-DC01. So let's say WSA-DC01. Domain is wsalab.local. Organization is, let's call it WSA Labs, or IT, we'll say Raleigh, North Carolina. Just next through this, we'll select the online certificate authority that'll issue the cert is us. We'll just pick that out of the list. The friendly name will just be WSA DC01, is totally fine. Hit finish. We'll go down to Sites, and then on the default website, we're going to come over to Bindings. Click on that. We'll go to HTTPS. We'll click Edit. And then we're going to change the certificate to the one we just created, this WSA-DC01. Click OK. OK. And we're going to test this really quick. I've had some issues out the gate. We might have to tweak our certificate templates to make sure that we can issue from here, but we'll see. So, HTTPS, WSA DC01, and WSA lab.local. Just make sure that the cert lines up. We can get to this page, which is just the IIS page. And then we're going to cert SRV. Good, it prompts us to log in. Let's say we're logging in as administrator. And I'm going to type my password right this time. All right, so just to make sure that we can issue certificates, I'm going to go to request a certificate. We'll say advanced certificate request, create and submit a certificate request to the CA. Okay, cool. So certificate templates, let's just see if the ones that we need are in there. Good, because we need web server and subordinate CA, or subordinate certificate authority. And we'll go through why we need those two in particular for our WSA going forward. The other thing that I like to do in the lab, just to make sure everything works good on the client computers, is I like to tweak group policy to make sure that the certificate is advertised out and installed on all of the client workstations. This is supposed to happen by default, but I've had it happen in the lab a couple times where it didn't happen by default. And it's super annoying to troubleshoot. Not that it'll take you too long. You'll see that certificates issued out by the CA just aren't trusted, and you automatically know, like, okay, well, obviously the client's not trusting them. So I like to just put it into group policy and make sure that it gets installed in all of the clients that are part of the domain. So let me just back up and I'll tell you what I'm doing. So I opened up the Certificate Authority Management Console. I clicked on the server. I'm right-clicking on it, go into Properties. This first tab here under General, I'm going to click on View Certificate. This is the actual root CA certificate. I'll go to Details, and I'll copy to File. Default options are totally okay here. I just give it a name like root CA. And drop it on the old desktop. This doesn't export the private key or anything like that, so it's totally okay to do. I think I actually put it in Documents and wasn't paying attention. Yes, I did. Put that there. Then we're going to open up the Group Policy Management Console, which, by the way, I'm doing it just from a run, but you can just as easily go to Start and type Group Policy Management and get to the same deal. It's just, I mean, for me, it's just faster to type gpmc.msc. So we'll expand this. We'll look at our domains. Keep doing this drop down in the tree until we see our default domain policy. And I'm just going to edit that. Again, this is for a lab. Your server admins might have different policies they want to associate this to if you're going to go this route. I'm going to go to Edit, Computer Policies, Windows Settings. I'm going to see if I can remember this. I'll probably have to fumble my way through. Security Settings. Wait for it. Can he remember where it's at? Public key policies? Ah, there it is. Look at me go. Okay, cool. That took way too long. So to build that tree back out, so in our default domain policy, we'll go under policies, under Windows settings, under security settings, and under public key policies. We're going to go to trusted root certificate authorities is where I'm going to add it at. I'm just going to right click on that, hit import, browse to the file on my desktop. I'm going to drop that there, finish. And then just to make sure that that took, we'll go over to our Windows computer real quick, which did not lock. Good deal. So it shouldn't be in there yet. I'm just going to bring up the management console. Add remove snap-ins. We'll go to certificates. This should be dropping into our computer account when this is all set up and working. So in our trusted certificate authority, we should not see anything about our domain controller yet. I'll do a quick GP update and just make sure that it imports that. Well, I covered my mouth so it's like echoing into the mic. We're just going to make sure that after doing a quick group policy update that it imports the root certificate that we just put into our default domain policy. Sweet. So there's, I guess it did it for the, okay, so this is one of those times where it actually worked the way it's supposed to right out of the box, which is cool. I've had it before where it didn't import it, so it imported the one that I put in manually and it brought in the enterprise root CA all by itself. So we should be able to browse to WSA-DC01, WSA lab.local, and sometimes IIS has SSL 3.0 enabled as a fallback, and that causes weird issues with Chrome. So I'm just going to put this into my buffer, and I'll pop the URL into Internet Explorer if that happens. Okay, cool. So it loads right up. View the certificate. Everything looks good. So our certificate authority is all set, and Group policy is distributing the root CA appropriately out to our clients. And that's really it for the first video. It's just me fumbling around trying to get a enterprise root CA set up, and I wanted to show you that part first. In the next video, we'll actually go through the WSA configuration, requesting the certificates that we need to get installed on the WSA, joining the domain, and then finally getting WCCP configured, which is really, really quick. So that's all for this video. Hope you guys join me next time, and I hope this has been informative.